Hey everyone, as some of you might know, I recently created a new YouTube channel called Dino Tales, where I will focus all the upcoming dinosaur cinematics. You can find the link to the Dino Tales channel in the description down below. So if you like my dinosaur content and would definitely want to see more, please head on over there and subscribe to my dinosaur channel. I hope by doing this to cater my videos more to those only interested in the dinosaur videos and give you the content that you want to see. Currently I'm uploading the current season episodes on there, but we'll start the newest season there very soon. Also, since I already started this season on the Kanoa channel, I will still finish it in its entirety on here as well. Thanks, and enjoy the rest of the episode. The prehistoric zoo had by now sprawled over half the clearing that the island offered, and the amount of species that were on display rivaled that of some of the best regular zoos out there. Yet some pretty pristine and important assets had not been established, including the Giganotosaurus, the Diplodocus, any flying types, or of course, the king of the dinosaurs, the feared and respected T-Rex. This last one was of course in the minds of many ever since the park opened. It was considered the banner holder for any prehistoric park, and its roar alone was louder and more aggressive than any other predator they currently had. And even though the park offered a varied and great display of various dinosaurs and other animals, the question of, when is the T-Rex going to appear, still was on everyone's mind. But it was important for shareholders and money spenders to not showcase this magnificent beast too early, since this could dampen the introduction of less spectacular animals afterward. But the more recent dinosaurs that had been added were played safely, and so many agreed that the visitors and audience members deserved a treat. As said before, even if the T-Rex was introduced, a still larger predator, like the Giganotosaurus, would still see the light of day. There was more than enough room to share the spotlight with all the other dinosaurs that were yet to come. But then of course the most important question was, what type of T-Rex would be introduced? They could retrieve the dinosaurs that broke loose from the first park and established a pack in the wild afterward before being deployed in the safari park. But the photographs of those carnivores were all too familiar by now, which could take away from the splendid awe. The recent gene splicing and modification were a huge success, and thus it was implied that they tried this too with the T-Rex. Much like with the Spinosaurus before, many different teams of scientists had come up with the potential models and formulas to create the perfect T-Rex according to their design. The first design was a rather extreme one, a blue T-Rex with bright orange stripes all over. This type was inspired by an old PlayStation 1 game called Jurassic Park Warpath, a fighting game with dinosaurs. The look definitely would catch someone's eye, but also looked very manufactured. The issue, however, was that almost like a chameleon, the color shifted depending on where the T-Rex walked. The closer it was, the more of its color faded away, almost like camouflage. But instead, the regular brown texture would return, and thus, they looked elsewhere. The next presented T-Rex was inspired by the one showcased in Jurassic Park 3, where it briefly had a cameo. It was very underused, and the scientists who came up with the idea wanted the viewers to see the green color scheme of this colossal predator in all its might. Then the final two were interestingly enough inspired by toys. Before the artificial recreation of dinosaurs came to existence, there were of course a ton of toys available already. One of these toys was the apparent Hasbro Canyon version, a very cool and unique design. Its white colors, with the orange pattern and of course the diamond-like encrusted ridge around its eyes, made this one beauty to behold. It once again really looked artificially fabricated though, but was quite pleasant to the eye. It was almost like a racing car amongst dinosaurs, with how bright and intense its colors and patterns were. But also inspired by those toys were a group of scientists who created a T-Rex to an earlier toy model. One that was dark brown, even a bit red, and had black stripes and spots all over. And fate would have it that the owner of the park actually owns this toy and got it for Christmas way back when. So the nostalgia immediately made him fall in love with it again when he saw it. And the agreement on the two types of T-Rexes were made to get the Jurassic Park 3 green type and the red toy type. It was of course very big news that the T-Rex had finally arrived at the park. The red Rex was definitely the one who caught the eye sooner of the two. Not everyone was old enough to remember that toy, and so the younger audience members found that it resembled a character like Darth Maul, as its dark red and black stripes made it a look-alike of that Star Wars character. The two behemoths were transported to their new pen with a lot of ease, and this time too, there were lots of reporters and journalists to document it. The two dinosaurs were quite lively when they arrived at the pen. The area that had been reserved for these two was quite large, ensuring they would not be stressed out. All that space indeed worked its magic, since the T-Rexes loved to just run around. They had worked up quite a thirst and appetite, and often were not too far from one another. They clearly seemed to have a bond created amongst them, fascinating the scientists on the pairing behavior of this particular species. It could be that the T-Rex and his or her mate had a tighter bond than most other dinosaurs, which was interesting because they were definitely considered an apex predator, not therefore reliant on the help of others. The two dinosaurs were also fascinated with the sights of what they saw outside of their fenced-off pen, and their welcoming did not go unnoticed by their neighbors as well. The Oviraptors could definitely tell that dinosaur royalty had landed near them, but they never really felt threatened. Their intelligence was apparently high enough to where they realized the situation they were in, and that both dinosaurs were separated by the fences. But then it was time for another dinosaur, and it was difficult to declare on what dinosaur would be next after such a huge star as the T-Rex. And thus, some felt they should just go small this time, and therefore, a very tiny pen was reserved for a new critter. They already had a vast array of smaller dinosaurs, but the one they still had not welcomed in the park was a Dimetrodon. The Dimetrodon made their first debut back at the safari park. These little devils favored hunting at night in packs. They could almost be seen as a mix between the compies and the raptors, which still made them very deadly and dangerous. They were so small that they could still easily get lost in the grass, and therefore the park wanted to make sure that plenty of the dinosaurs would be brought into the park. It would be a long operation to move them all to the pen, but in total, 10 Trodon would be brought over into the park and the pen. Though the pen was smaller than all the other areas, it was still more than enough to please the Trodon pack. It would ensure that the audience members would get a good look at these new little guests of the park.